everybody. Welcome to your unpaid therapist.
Hello, welcome to another episode of your unpaid therapist.
I'm not getting paid. I didn't even get a donut.
Oh, that's sexy though. I like it.
I'm Valerie Milagros Ortiz.
I don't know.
I am your host, Ali Kona. She's away. Brad Ford.
This is your unpaid therapist. Shoo-wah, cha-cha.
Shoo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba.
Okay, guys, if I fall in the middle of this podcast, just keep going. Oh my goodness. Hello, everybody. Hi, welcome to your unpaid therapist. You know me. I'm Ali Kona, and there's two lovely ladies. We have, of course, our very fabulous Patreon member. It is Brandy McDonald Velazquez. Woo-hoo.
Brandy's back.
And I mean, y'all know Valerie to the Ortiz.
Hola, hola.
So
This is a juicy one. When you actually, do you remember what you said to me?
I think so. I said something along the lines of why you should touch yourself.
Yeah,
Right?
something like that. So you guys are going to want to listen, I think. I mean,
think so.
with just
Yes.
that alone. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah.
But if you're new to the podcast, we do these Never Have I Evers before we dive deep. Sometimes our episodes get emotional. I don't think this one will, but we just like to break the ice with our guests. So we have some Never Have I Evers on some cards. I'm shuffling, and the girls are going to pick a color from where they are. What do you want?
Brandy, I'm going to let you go first since you are a guest of honor.
I'm going to take the pink one in the middle since pink's my favorite color.
I love it. All right. So never have I ever accidentally slobbered or drooled on someone during a serious moment.
Oh.
Mm.
Not that I can think of. No.
Yeah.
Valerie?
I'm going to second that. I don't, during a serious moment. I mean, I'm like only during a serious moment. I'm sure I've like drooled on somebody like at night or like, I don't know if I was like laying on them or something.
Well,
Ali Kona.
Danielle, am I the only one with a wet mouth? Like, what's happening? I have
What do
definitely,
you even mean? Like a spill? A spattle?
yeah, like, I mean, I like straight up just looked at somebody and it just like came out my mouth. I'm like, what? Wait, what? But I have also had, I'm not going to say any names, but whatever. I've had a very intimate moment with my boyfriend, and we like intimate moment. And like, he straight up drooled on me. Like, hit me in the forehead. I was like,
Oh.
Oh.
Okay.
is it that good, boo? Is it that good?
That's
Yeah,
funny.
but I've definitely
People are
drooled.
into that kind of thing.
Yeah,
That's true.
So,
I mean,
my number is 555. Next,
Da-da-da-da, your turn.
I am gonna go with the blue one. That is the second to this side.
This one?
Yeah, that one.
Okay. Never have you ever regretted not telling someone that you had feelings for them.
Ooh,
So never have I ever regretted not telling someone I had feelings for them.
yes and no. In the moment, I never would have had the courage. I guess that's the point of I wish I would have. Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't think they would have liked me back though. So I don't know. I think I wish I would have had more confidence, like when I was in high school. And if someone did not like me, just move on.
Yeah.
yes.
What about
That's
you
how
guys?
I feel the same way. It was always high school. And back then, I never had the courage to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I never have ever regretted. No, not really, especially now looking back. Like I don't know about you guys, but anybody that I thought was cute way back then or like was like, "Oh, that's the hot one." I like and you look at them now on their Facebook or Insta,
Oh, yeah.
like, "Oh, did I dodge me a bullet?"
Okay, I'm not going to lie. I've looked up a couple ex-boyfriends and I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
Thank
like,
God. Yeah. Like, ooh.
exactly.
Oh
So
man.
now
What
I'm
about
like,
you, Valerie? Next,
about
never
what?
have I ever. You have the last one.
Oh yeah. Oh, I thought you were saying the same. I was like, I'm answering the question now. Okay, never have I ever. Let me pick one. Dun, dun, dun. Never have I ever knocked over a display or a mannequin. This was a long one. Inside of a store, then casually walked away pretending you saw nothing. No, that is a hard no, and I cannot wait to know who can relate.
I, well, me,
Tell, tell,
obviously.
tell.
Shit, guys.
Why did I know you were going to say yes to this?
Of course
I
she
mean,
was.
twice. I was with some mutual friends, Brandy. I was with Wendy and Molly, and I did run into a mannequin. I told her I was sorry and kept going. And they were like, "Why did you just apologize to the mannequin?" I'm like, I don't know. But I also did an exercise once for my acting class where I had to go out as my character, and I was an older geriatric lady because I had split personalities, and I went out with my scene partner. The same scene partner. I don't know if we talked about it yet, but like we went to a sex shop together, and he was so uncomfortable. Poor guy. He got teamed up with me. But anyway, I went into a CVS, and as this old lady, I was so in the moment that I saw a display of canes, and I was like, "Ooh, canes!" And I walked over to the canes, and I picked one up, and literally all of the canes fell off of the unit, and I was like, and I just kept on walking.
That is awesome.
Them up.
I don't think I've knocked any mannequins over, but I've definitely walked into like the little poles in the middle of the store a couple of times. If that makes you feel better.
But you guys have literally never knocked anything over in the middle of a store before?
Not that I can remember.
No.
I've walked into plenty of things like walls and things like that.
Has this happened to you more than once? Is this why you're frustrated with our nose?
Yeah. I mean, as I mentioned, I've run into a lady mannequin. I have knocked over the canes. Like, I thought this was a thing, but I guess not.
Right. It is not. But
All right.
what is a thing for some
Smooth
people
like butter.
Yes.
is touch is self-pleasure or not. Talk to us about this, Alikona. Why did you want to bring this up? Why did you think it was a good episode? I mean, I know why, but tell the people.
Because I was taking this class, because y'all know I like my classes, how to be irresistibly sexy, because I'm not, right? Like, I'm very masculine in my energy, so nothing about me is sexy.
Yes, you
Outside of-
are.
I
I
can
know,
learn
I'm just-
choreography. I can learn dance choreography to imitate sexiness, but I'm not somebody who exudes sexiness. And so, clearly. But anyway, and so one of the things that the instructor was talking about was like touch and how important it is to touch yourself, because most of us, especially women, are taught not to do that. But whether it's in a pleasurable way, a comforting way, we just don't touch ourselves. And if you don't touch yourself and you don't know what you like, then how the hell are you going to tell your man, your lady, or whoever it is what you like? Like, you're going to be navigating for a very long time before you get to the spot, because neither one of you know what it is. Can I get an amen?
That's very true. Yes.
Amen, girl.
Yes.
And also, I mean, it doesn't have to be purely sexual. You know, I remember even as like a little kid, to go to sleep, I used to suck my thumb and then pull out my hair. And like just that like made me and sleepy. And it's so funny because the other day my cousin sent me a text and her son was doing something like that, like playing with his hair to go to sleep, and she was like, "Oh my God, Valerie!" Like everybody knew that as soon as I started doing that, and even to this day, like sometimes I'll catch myself and I'll start playing with my hair, and I'm like kind of twisting it in my fingers. For those of you who are not watching, and it feels so like calming.
I mean,
Okay.
that's super interesting, because I know, Brandy, we've in conversation talked, and you said you'll sometimes stroke your arm. I've never, outside of having a sore muscle, I've never thought to touch myself. And we were talking about an exercise, and I would love for you guys to participate. If you're a listener, be careful if you're driving. And if your name is Valerie or your name is Brandy, then you have to participate too. So it was different types of touch, because we usually think of touching yourself as like a scratch or massage, but like, do you ever stop and like hold your own face the way you'd want to be held by another person? And like, how does it feel, or how does it feel to like run your fingers through your hair right now? And I don't care if it ends up looking crazy, but like in a tantalizing way, like not even in a, I don't know, like, does it feel good?
I love head massages. So
Oh yeah.
I feel like
And
a lot
so
of
it's like,
right?
if you can touch yourself and be like, ooh, yeah, right there. But then say you move your hands downward and you scratch your breast, and you're like, oh, I don't like that. At least you know that, so you can tell your person. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Yes.
who does that though? I mean, have you ever done that journey of self-discovery and just like randomly touched yourself to see if you like it?
I feel like that was yes, because it's I think a progression of just like growing up. um, but I know we talked about how that for some people may have happened a lot earlier. And I know we've talked about this, Brandy, with like your upbringing and my upbringing, and just in general, like even just talking about being with another person, or sex before marriage, any of that kind of stuff. Like growing up is like, I don't think
Yep.
so. You are going to hell. Not
Yes,
really,
exactly what I was told.
right? But very similarly. Um, so it wasn't something that I feel like happened early in life, or maybe when I think, I don't know, I'm just assuming that most people messed around.
Well, what about you, Brandy? Like, because we did talk about you grew up, and correct me, because you always say LDS. For anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's Mormon. I
Yes,
don't.
correct.
Okay. Okay.
Correct. Yes,
So
so Mormon.
when was the
So,
first? Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
okay, sorry. So I was going to say, so when we spoke about like the talk in my family, I never really had the talk. I was just told you wait until you're married. And if you don't, you're going to go to hell. Like God watches you. He puts black stark marks by your name, and you will go to hell after so many. And like I was freaked out to do anything, let alone touch myself and look at myself in the mirror like naked. Like
Oh, that's an
no.
interesting one.
Yeah.
So curiosity, because Brandy and I went to high school together. How old were you when you had your first hookup with a guy?
Like the first time I had intercourse, or just
No, no,
like
no. Like just fooled around. Like let somebody touch you.
I would say my junior year. And you know
Okay.
exactly who it was.
Yeah.
Oh.
We both dated him.
Oh,
What?
awesome.
Yeah.
Hold on. Can I get some initials? Why
Fresh
am
off
I
the
stroking
press.
my chair right now?
Yeah,
Because it feels good to touch.
Thank you.
I love it.
Yeah, I would say my junior year where I actually really like made out and let somebody touch like my breast and things. Yeah.
And did you feel guilty afterwards?
Oh my gosh, yes. I felt
Sure.
ashamed.
Yes.
Very ashamed. Like I went home and like was so quiet. I don't know why, but I thought my parents were gonna find out like somehow. But yeah, I was ashamed.
It's that
I'm not,
guilt. What about you,
Yeah.
Alex? What age and what do you
well,
remember from?
yeah, okay, so first of all, I feel like that's just so sad because it is our human right to feel pleasure, and as women, we're discouraged not to. And so, like, to have to carry around that guilt after having a moment of like deep connection with another person, and maybe it wasn't a deep connection, maybe it was just a hookup. I don't know. But the point is like,
Sure.
I don't know. You shouldn't feel bad about that. Anyway, first time I was a late bloomer. My first kiss was junior year. Same thing. Brandy knows who it is. And the first time I hooked up with somebody, I don't remember who it was. That's so weird. But I feel like they didn't like me. Like I was just trying to do what I was supposed to do. But I was so ashamed of my body too. Same thing, just like so ashamed and unsure. And the sex talk for me was, do you know what AIDS is? Yeah. Don't get it.
Your parents said that?
Okay. My
Oh.
dad said that.
Okay.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah. What about you, Valerie? When's the first time you had any kind of physical contact outside of just making out?
Old. I was in high school.
That's not old. I was in
Um,
high school too.
Yeah, like me too.
We were all in high
um,
school.
it was like my first
We
real
were all
boyfriend.
terrified.
I know, yeah, like my first real boyfriend, fast forward, then husband. So late bloomer and late on that. But I was curious if y'all, I mean, I know Brandy, you have kids, and I know Alicona, you don't want no kids, but what would, because you saying that your dad was like, don't get AIDS, how would you just talk to your kids about something like this? Or even how about women? Because we're talking about women specifically. But it doesn't really even have to be women. Like how does one bring this up?
Brandy, you're the parent.
I was gonna say I thankfully got off because I have 3 boys, so it was my husband's job to do it. Um, but he did reassure me that he had like a full-on conversation with them, like into it about women and
Yeah.
making them feel good and protecting him and her and all of that.
At what
So,
age?
we did with my 2 older boys. We I think he did 8th grade, But with Maddox, who's 12, and things are way different, we actually had to give the talk. He's in 7th grade, and we just gave him the talk. I think it's like
Oh
the
my
end of 6th
goodness.
grade. Yeah.
Mm.
Because
That's
I
scary.
work in the dental field, and I have a patient who's a bus driver for junior high children, and she told me that she catches junior high children giving each other oral sex on the bus.
Oh my
Shut
God.
the front bus
I
door.
know. Like, I was just like, are you? Yeah, that's the same
Ew.
exact thing I said to her.
Oh my gosh.
Thank
Ew.
you. Thank you. I
I
didn't
First
even
of
know
all,
what it was in junior high.
I remember the first time I had that kind of experience, and me being me, the only thing I could think about is this person had a leather belt and I could smell the dead cow and was like, this is so
Oh,
disgusting. I know you guys
and
were
that's
like,
bad, but
whatever.
that's bad for you.
Yeah, for those
Yeah.
of you who don't know, I'm vegan and I have such a sensitive nose when it comes to that type of stuff. So I was like, it was so forever. It's so funny association. Anytime I went through a department store through the belt section and smelled leather, all I could think about was this person's penis. I was like, oh.
God.
ill. I still can't get over those middle schoolers on the bus. That is just too much. Like,
Yeah.
thinking if I had a kid, or even my boyfriend's daughter, if I even heard that she saw it, heard it, was anything linked to it, I just would be like, no, little sweet thing.
Right.
Oh, hold
Thank
on. I
you.
want to bring it back though to topic of us touching ourselves and like some of your experiences with men growing up and stuff like that. Like when did you guys learn or how did you learn what you liked? Like did you just let the dude figure it out or were you able to navigate certain pleasure points on your body and direct somebody there?
Yeah, I mean, again, with me, it was all so late. So it definitely let the man guide, just because, again, all of that it was so foreign. It wasn't talked about. It wasn't explored. Um, it wasn't even and I think like a thing, like it wasn't, it was ignorant. I was so ignorant to any of it. And I hadn't heard people talk about it either. So there was no basis to think that this is what you do or what you should have done or what you should explore. So it was very just basic, what you would think. What about y'all?
I'm
Yeah, I
I'm
I was older as well. See, okay, so I've been with my husband for 23 years. We've been together since the middle of our senior year, end of our senior year.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think
I
someone's
just
yelling, Brandy. Hold on. Somebody's yelling. I'm sorry, I went to Brandy because I'm like, you
no,
have
that's
poison.
okay. It probably is my boys screaming at their games. Gosh.
I love it.
So for the longest time, for years, I mean, we had 3 children. I was 30 when I had my 3rd child, and it was after that by the time I actually touched myself for the first time sexually. Because all
Wow.
those years I just thought, oh, this was sex, this is how it felt, this is good. And then once I decided, I can't remember if it was like a group of girlfriends or if it was a podcast that I was watching where they were talking about it, and I was like, okay, like I guess it is okay. Like maybe I should try it. And
Yeah.
so I tried it, and that's not that like intercourse wasn't good before, but like it really like went to like next level. No joke.
Yes, once you discover the clitoris,
Yes.
ladies.
Like and you know what? One thing I will tell you, one thing I didn't know, I have a tilted uterus, and that means that it takes a little bit more to get to my G spot.
Oh.
Yes, and I had to learn that. And I was
Was
freaking
during a
30 something years old by the time I learned that.
Was
Wow.
it through a tap?
Yeah, I was having issues and I had to have an ultrasound done. And she's like, "Oh, by the way, your uterus is tilted." And I was like, "Oh."
See, even stuff like that, like, again, like somebody out there, like you just sharing that information could be like, that might be me. Maybe this is the why. And it's nobody ever talks about any of that stuff. So, or I mean, I guess I never heard women talk about it. So I never knew you could have a tilted uterus.
Yes. And so you need, it's a little bit harder to get to your G spot because it's a little bit deeper. Like you got to go a little bit deeper.
But
Interesting.
did you guys know that women can have more different types of orgasms than men can, and that our senses are more sensitive than men? So technically, I feel like I'm not a dude, but I feel like we might have better orgasms than they do.
Oh, I always tell my husband, "Aren't you jealous I can have more than one?"
Seriously.
Yeah,
That's true, I guess. I
right?
never thought about it like that. Yeah. But I mean, listen, with all the other stuff we have to deal with, like that's the least, thing that we could get, right? Like,
That's so true.
thank you, everything else, menopause, periods, birthing children, hormones,
Right?
like, oh, thanks. We get a couple more orgasms than you guys. Um,
Yes.
I also wanted to bring up, and I saw somebody do this at one of my jobs, and it's called tapping, and they
Mhm.
also call it emotional freedom technique. But it's a method that some individuals have found helpful in managing their emotions. And so during EFT, they tap certain points of their body, similar to the points used during acupuncture. Like, have you guys ever done this, seen it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I-
So
I've never done it, but I've heard about it.
I just was well, I saw it live and in person, and this girl started talking about it. I was like, this is pretty. I mean, it looks silly, to be honest. It looks kind of crazy. If you don't, if nobody tells you what it is, and this person's like constantly tapping themselves, you're like, what is happening over there? Um, but it's fascinating. At least that's what I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah, so like the concept behind that is you have different meridians in your body that are connected to
Yep.
different organs, and sometimes things can get jumbled up. So the purpose of tapping is to just reset your energy.
Mhm.
So I have done that. I'm actually taking a class because I like classes on
Tapping.
energy medicine and healing and tapping specifically. So it's like tapping certain parts of your face that are connected with your kidneys or your this or that, which your face is not connected to your kidney, but immunity, unscrambling. And I don't know if it does anything, but I do know that when I first started, there'd be certain pressure points that hurt, and now they don't hurt anymore. So I don't know if I
Oh,
released
Oh,
some sort
okay.
of something. But the study of that goes back like decades and decades. Meridians is more like East Asian, but then there's also, what do they call them? Paul told us about them. I forgot, but there's a totally different in yoga terms, but it's all the same thing. You know what I mean? It's like, it's
yeah, it
interesting.
really is all intertwined and connected for sure.
Yeah. So.
Another way that I would and sometimes still do soothe myself is I like kind of scratch my forearm. Is this the forearm?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and it just like kind of tickles, but kind of scratches, and that also like would kind of like put me to sleep. And I don't know how I discovered that. I feel like I've done it since I was like a little kid, and I'd be like, that feels nice.
That's what I do when I watch TV or
Oh,
movies. Like all of a sudden, I'm just rubbing my arm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I would love to know if that's something your parents used to do for you, because my parents, I mean, my mom would rub my back if I was sick to make me feel better and go to sleep, but I think we weren't a very physically affectionate family, so it's not something that I am it's not a norm that I'm like, that's a standard. I have to have that in my life. But we were talking about this before, the three of us, and how I was saying when I went through the exercise of like scratching different parts of my body, or the other motions were like massage or just squeezing yourself, almost like a hug. And that feels so good. But there would be moments where I would do squeeze the way I would squeeze one of you if you're having a bad day. And then I'd be like, this is so nice. And then I'd realize I don't have a lot of this in my life. And then I'd be like, I don't have a lot of this in my life.
yeah.
But it is cool to know that you can do it for yourself. We just sometimes don't think to.
Yeah, and I remember we
Yeah.
were talking about you had you wanted Brandy and I to do that and like hug ourselves, right? And it's just like
Yeah.
hug tight, and it's like, what do you feel? Do you feel anything? And in that instant I didn't, but I remember going through a similar exercise, and I don't remember why or where, but it was attached to hugging your younger self.
Mm.
And when I had put it in that way in my head, it definitely evoked so much emotion, because it was just like, it's gonna be okay, little Val. It's weird. So
Mhm.
I guess depending on what the thought is behind it, it can definitely bring back some things or just really soothe you in a way that you wouldn't have imagined or thought you needed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But what a beautiful thing to realize that you can give that to yourself and that you don't necessarily, I mean, sure, it feels good from somebody else, but you don't need to stay with that person. Let's say that he holds you right or he gives it to you good in bed or whatever the case may
Right.
be. It's such a hard thing to let that go. But you're putting up with extra bullshit that you don't need to put up with. Because some
Sure.
people do, like they stay
Yeah.
in relationships because they feel like they need the other person. But I think once you realize that you can rely on yourself for emotional support or friends, but you can rely on yourself to soothe yourself and touch yourself and feel good.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, and all that is
Yeah.
important, and kind of discovering what that is for you, whether it be the tapping or massage or the yoga stuff that Paul introduced us.
sun in your
I
butthole,
was yeah,
whatever.
sunning your booty hole. Um,
That's my favorite.
If y'all haven't heard it, go back to that episode, Paul Benedict, Tantric
It's a good
Yoga.
episode. Yes.
oh my goodness, I love it.
Ooh,
Yeah, it's
wait.
so helpful.
Speaking of Tantra, have either of you ladies done Karma Sutra? Like gotten a Karma Sutra book or tried any of those things?
No, but I've wanted
No.
to, just because I'm just curious. Like, so what? Because okay, isn't there there's a difference, right? Because I feel like when we were talking to Paul, he was like, "Oh, that is this," and you're thinking it's that. Like, I think that's
So,
why I've been so curious. So, what is it?
well, there's the Kama and the Sutra. I'm not going to break it down right, so I'm not even
Isn't
going
it
to
like
try.
one is
But I,
comma and one is karma? Something like
yes, but I know
Something.
that the whole
Yeah.
thing with like being the tantric energy is something that
or
creates
tantric.
intimacy between people, and the Kama Sutra is more the actual sexual side of it, and it's like being closer to your partner, whether it's like different erotic positions
Mhm.
or it might be erotic, but the thing that makes it erotic is the connection between you and your person and the breath, right? So it's like
Mhm.
being able to be naked in front of your partner and touch their chest and have them touch your chest and be face to face or cross or whatever the case may be and breathe in unison. And I will say this, right? So there is this guy that I've had that type of connection. We weren't actively doing Kama Sutra, but I noticed that anytime we were in any kind of intimate situation with each other, like we'd be kissing, the first thing he would do is he would take my hand and put it on his heart, and then he would purposely breathe in sync with me. Whether he studied Kama Sutra or not, I don't know, but it was this wild, like, rush of, I don't
What
even know how to.
witchery was it?
Okay, you
Yeah,
make
'cause
me
then
want
I'm
to
like,
try it.
no wonder women love you. Like you feel like you are the only person that exists in this world, and like this person wants to swallow you whole. Like it just feels like they took you in, and it's so um
Mm,
uh not
tense.
tantalizing, but erotic for lack of better words. It's so erotic. So when you do get to the part of the actual touching, whether it's what's the word? Oh shit. I'm like pre-sex. What are those activities called, you guys? Foreplay.
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 So
Sounds like
pre-sexual
food.
activities. So whether it's foreplay or the actual sex, by the time you get to that point, you've built up so much energy and connection in your body that it's like an explosion. And the orgasm is like 20 times more powerful because you've lit up so many other parts of your body.
And
Okay.
us women, I feel like clearly some men know this from your experience, but I don't know, and I feel like I hear women talk about this a lot, so plenty of men don't get it, but it's like their foreplay is way more, at least I'm going to speak for myself, emotional than it is sensual or physical. Like there's just so many other things that like have to lead up to it emotionally for it
Mm.
to make sense, because if that's not there, like I'm good. Like I don't know
Yeah,
about you guys, but how is it for
I
you?
agree with you. I'm definitely like emotional like that. Like I want to be like that. Yeah.
I think for me, to piggyback off of what you were saying, Val, like as far as it being like emotional, I think that takes a lot of
Or
vulnerability to
mental or mental.
partake. Yeah, because especially as a woman, if we are bombarded with so many ideals of what we're supposed to look like and what our body is supposed to look like. So to have to A, show your body to another human, B, be in all these vulnerable positions where like, your legs are opened up and you can see this or you can see that, or you're touching this or touching that. And it's all the parts that have been labeled as inadequate, and to trust somebody to be able to see it, to touch it, taste it, whatever it is, it's so I don't know. To me, it's so vulnerable. So you have to really trust somebody.
Oh yeah.
I see that. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Brady's like, I see that. I've only been with one guy
Well, I've
like a
only
lot.
been right. Like that's why I feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah, which is interesting because
Oh.
I've always, I mean, I am not worried about or need it, but I always thought it was really interesting on the people who could separate the emotion from being intimate with somebody. Like
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just
tough.
like, how? Like if we even get there, like
It don't feel good.
there has to be an emotional connection. There's just no other way for me.
Yeah, yeah. Have you? Okay. Side note, you guys, if you haven't watched it, there's a comedian named Joe Coy who's freaking hilarious. But he has a bit where he talks about like going down on his wife and how like sometimes he'll find like little bits of toilet paper, and he's like, I
Oh,
call it.
stop it.
Yes, and he's like, I call it clitty litter. Like it's a kitty litter.
Oh, well,
Oh my god.
I was like,
I'm done.
oh, but then thereafter, I was like, oh, and I think like my person at the time, he's like, yeah, you've definitely had some of that too, and I was like, oh my god, what?
Are you for real? Uh-uh. I can't. I have no comment. That's bad. But look, good for them
At least
for
I'm thorough, okay? I get it clean, wipe it really good.
but did you though? Because there's residue.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
But
can't believe that your person never said something
before,
right.
Right.
Or like after, like, oh, by the way. Or,
but dude, have you
I don't
guys
know.
ever? Okay, so
It
Brandy,
doesn't.
you and your hubby are like really close, obviously, and
Right.
comfortable with each other. It's like, have you ever had that intimate situation where someone was maybe like not so fresh because they just did a workout or something, and you're like, they're a little tart. Like,
Ew,
do you
Yeah.
tell him?
We've had there's been a couple of times where he's wanting me to go down and I'm like, nope, because we've been going all day and you've been sweaty.
Yeah.
And then there's been a couple of times after a shower where he's gone down on me and he's like, you still have soap in your hoo-ha. Like, go
Ew!
rinse your shit. Yeah. I'm like, but like you, at
But
least
let's-
it's clean.
okay.
I cleaned it
Soap
really good.
with toilet tissue.
But could you imagine being that guy and be like, oh, it's like Dove in here? Like, what?
Oh my gosh.
It was clean.
Right. At least
Valerie,
always
it's your turn to share.
Well, no. That's a hell hard no. No. If if
I
there is
told
something
Alacona I was open. Whatever you want to ask.
Thank
of
you.
you're super clean, it's not even a thing.
But
Point.
I've also been with the same person for 23 years, so I feel like it's easy for
Yeah.
me to share. Like, I don't know.
But like that's when it gets fun, right? Because you've been with them for so long. I mean, sure, it could go one of two ways, right? Like it could get monotonous and boring, or you choose
Yeah.
to lean into the fact that we've been together so long. Like, let's try this. Or I encourage you, Brandy, go get a Kama Sutra book and like find something and sit with your husband and be like, does that look interesting to you? Because it kind of looks interesting to me. Like, I don't know, how you feeling? Can
Yeah.
you flip it upside down tonight, or like what's happening?
At
But,
23 years, we're always trying to find ways to spice it up because it does get boring, especially we have 3 kids that are always around the house. They're always there.
Girl, I feel like that would be tough. Like and just after being a mother, having a job and all the other things that life brings to you. Again, going back to the mental part of, the foreplay. Like how? Like I'm tired. Like I'm tired. Like I just heard Billy yell from the other room. Like I'm not, this isn't going down. Like how do you shut that part off and turn the other part on? I feel like that would be a struggle for me.
I think it was a struggle in the beginning when they were little, but we eventually learned to kind of block it out and shut it off. But it was more like we learned around our schedules. Like,
Mhm.
okay, the boys are taking their shower, like, let's go do this real quick. Or everybody's asleep. So, Thursday night when everybody goes to sleep, it's that, like, it's
Yeah.
literally schedule it. Like, we've had to schedule it before, which is why there's been times it's gotten boring because we were scheduling it in our schedule because we couldn't figure out how to do it. So we'd be like, okay, Thursday night, make sure you're not tired type thing. And yeah. And then thankfully in my 30s, I started touching myself and I was able to spice up our sex life even more.
Yeah.
Telling him what to do.
Yeah. I feel like I would just constantly be on alert. If I had kids in the house, look, I had a dog and a cat. And if the dog came walking by, I was already like, oh my God. Like, well, look. So, like, with actual human babies, it'd be so hard. Val, did Miley ever try to like peep in on you?
No, but I mean, maybe she could have been in the room, but that wasn't. Out of sight.
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. No.
so guilty.
Out of mind for sure.
Oh man, guys. Well, I feel like we have to wrap it up shortly just because we're trying to be short and concise. Is there anything like of importance that you guys were like, oh my God, I really wanted to talk about this and we didn't get a chance to, so like let's do it now.
Oh man, I'm trying to think.
I just want to tell those girls out there who think that it's shameful to touch yourself, even if you're married, do it, because I promise you it'll make your sex life better in your marriage. So do it.
Well, and also too, it's like it derives from, and this is not to offend anybody, but a lot of these beliefs come from religion. It doesn't matter the religion, just like a lot of them do come from religion, and for some reason it always oppresses women. Dudes can touch themselves all day long. It's like us girls. So it's like really taking back that and understanding like that is, it's just like if you want to scratch your knee and it feels good, or like we were scratching our scalps and that feels good. I don't know about you, but I didn't feel guilty after I just scratched my scalp. So why am I feeling guilty for touching other parts of my body that they're mine?
So, like, difference between little boys and little girls, I had 3 little boys. They would lay on the couch in their underwear with their hand down their underwear, just holding their pee-pee. And that was normal for little boys to do. But if you saw a little girl laying on the couch with her hand down her pants, you'd be like, what are you doing? Like, you can't do that. No.
Yeah.
She didn't need to,
And why do boys do that? I mean, like, why is that comforting? Like, I've never had the urge to just be like, I'm just going to hold her and make sure she stays there.
I don't know. I have to tell them to stop touching it or it's going to fall off. That's what I had to tell them when they were little.
That's a good one.
You know, and we had actually, so there's somebody who's a parent that has been on our show before, and I was on the phone with him, and I told you guys this. His son, I think they were setting the dinner table, and I think his son like touched himself, and he was like, "Bro, like it's cool, touch your pee-pee. Everybody does it. In fact, you're not normal if you don't touch it, but don't touch it at the dinner table."
Right? Okay. Yeah.
Good point. But I love that whether he was doing it intentionally or not, there was like that positive reinforcement of everybody does it. You're weird if you don't. Just don't do it here.
Yes, I like that. It's don't do it in certain places. Yes.
Sure. Yeah, he took that shame out of it, which I wonder if that's how it was approached to him as a child. I wonder if it was like premeditated, like he knew, like, hey, if and when this happens, this is how I'm going to approach that. You know, I'm very curious about that because there's just, God, there's so much to that.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I could go on forever, ladies, but I won't. Brandy, thank you again so much for coming on. We mentioned earlier, Brandy, well, first of all, she's just a longtime friend and one of our Patreon supporters, and we really appreciate you for that. One of the perks for being a Patreon member is she got to be on this episode. So, there's a link somewhere below. You can find it if you want to sign up as well, too.
Yeah, and then you get to see Alacona and Valerie's beautiful face when you watch.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. All of your insight. Yeah, for sure. It definitely helps because, I mean, you have other life experiences that obviously we haven't. So that's really the fun part of bringing people on that are, new guests and people we don't talk to all the time, because hearing your life story and things that you went through and go through every day just really adds to the like, oh my goodness. And of course, other listeners are going to relate. So I appreciate your vulnerability too, because again, not a lot of people are comfortable sharing and opening up, and that helps people relate,
Yeah.
So thank
And
you.
I really commend you for that too, because knowing your background, because knowing that you came from a family and that practice religion that puts so much shame, for you to sit here on this podcast and be like, yeah, like when I was 30, like I touched myself and it's like so many people couldn't do that. So I love that you are just like, whatever. That's how it
You
should
know
be.
what? Thank you for having me, because it took me time to get there. It took me time to really get in tune with myself to where I knew that this was okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well,
Yeah.
hopefully
Bring
that
your
helps.
power.
Yeah, I was gonna say, hopefully it helps you guys if you're feeling the same way. And hey, if you've
Yeah.
ever bumped into a mannequin, I just want you to know that it's okay.
It's okay. Yes.
I
Just
love
don't say sorry.
it. Just don't talk to plastic. I love it. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you, our listeners. We'll see you, or you'll hear us in another episode.
All right. Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Thanks for having me.
Touch yourself.